On freezing winter nights in New York City, when temperatures drop below zero, something strange happens on the sidewalks. Warm air rises from subway entrances. Most people walk past it without noticing. But for thousands of homeless New Yorkers, that heat can mean the difference between surviving the night or not. While the city sleeps, people quietly gather near stairwells, vents, and steam grates, building shelters from cardboard, plastic, and broken pallets. Not because they want to, because it's the only warmth available. There are no heaters, no electric blankets, no locked doors to keep the cold out. Just leaked heat from underground trains and steam pipes. Tonight, we're showing how homeless people survive extreme cold near New York City subway entrances, the hidden techniques, the street engineering, and the nightly struggle that most commuters never see. This isn't a story about poverty. It's a story about human adaptation. When temperatures in New York City drop below freezing, the streets don't empty. They harden. Wind funnels through avenues like concrete canyons. Ice forms in shaded corners and never melts. Metal railings burn bare skin. And for thousands of people with nowhere indoors to go, winter becomes something you don't endure. You negotiate with it hour by hour. On nights when the wind chill hits single digits, survival stops being abstract. Fingers lose feeling in minutes. Breath crystallizes in the air. Every exposed inch of skin becomes a liability. Yet every winter, people living outside wake up the next morning. One of the most critical places this happens is near subway entrances. To commuters, these stairwells are just passageways, spaces you rush through on your way to work. But to people experiencing homelessness, there's something else entirely. They're heat leaks. New York City's subway system runs 24 hours a day. Beneath the streets, thousands of tons of machinery generate warmth. Train motors, braking systems, electrical infrastructure, human bodies packed into underground platforms. That heat rises, and it escapes through grates, vents, and stairwells. You can feel it if you pause for half a second. A soft draft of warm air brushing against your legs as you walk past. A faint cloud of steam on especially cold mornings. To most people, it's barely noticeable. To someone sleeping outside, it can mean the difference between numb toes and functioning feet. Experienced street survivors learn to read the city like a thermal map. They know which subway entrances leak heat consistently and which ones don't. They know which stations shut down certain stairwells overnight. They know which corners block wind and which ones amplify it. They memorize where warm air rises strongest during rush hour and where it fades after midnight. This knowledge isn't written anywhere. It's passed from person to person. When extreme cold sets in, tents quietly migrate closer to subway entrances. Cardboard nests appear beside stairwells. People position sleeping bags near ventilation grates. Entire micro-communities shift by half a block to chase warmth that most New Yorkers don't even realize exists. But standing near a subway entrance isn't enough. Cold doesn't kill by temperature alone. Wind is the real predator. A calm 25-degree night can be survivable. Add gusts tearing through stairwells, and body heat evaporates at terrifying speed. That's why placement matters more than proximity. People don't just sleep near subway heat. They build wind shadows around it. They use construction barriers, newspaper boxes, temporary fencing, and building alcoves to block airflow. They angle their bodies so the warm air reaches their core while the wind hits their back. Shopping carts get parked strategically to form makeshift walls. Tarps are tied between railings. Cardboard becomes architecture. Everything is oriented around airflow. Then comes ground insulation. Most heat loss doesn't happen into the air. It happens into concrete. Sidewalks in winter act like giant heat sinks. Lie directly on them, and your core temperature starts dropping immediately. So people layer whatever they can underneath: flattened boxes, foam packaging, old yoga mats, discarded carpet, even pizza boxes stacked 6 or 7 deep. 2 inches of cardboard beneath you can matter more than 3 blankets on top. But cardboard has a weakness. Moisture, snowmelt, slush, and condensation soak into it fast. Once wet, cardboard stops insulating and starts pulling heat away from the body. That's why experienced survivors hide dry cardboard ahead of storms, storing it in trash bags behind dumpsters or under scaffolding. They treat it like winter currency. Plastic becomes critical. Garbage bags get slit open and laid beneath bedding to create vapor barriers. Plastic sheeting gets wrapped around sleeping areas to trap warm air. Grocery bags go between sock layers to keep feet dry. Every piece of plastic is repurposed into heat management. Inside these setups, people build what they call cocoons. They don't try to heat open space. They shrink their living area down to the smallest possible volume. Sleeping bags get zipped inside blankets. Blankets get wrapped inside tarps. Tarps get folded into tunnels. The goal is always the same: reduce the amount of air your body has to warm. Some describe it as building a tent inside a tent. Others call it a burrito. It's crude, but it works. Emergency Mylar blankets, those thin silver sheets handed out by outreach teams, get taped to cardboard walls to reflect radiant heat back toward the body. These $3 items can return up to 90% of infrared warmth. Hung correctly, they noticeably raise interior temperatures, but sealing everything too tightly creates another danger: carbon dioxide buildup. People sleeping in enclosed plastic spaces must leave small vents open, even during blizzards. Every winter, individuals die not from cold, but from suffocation or carbon monoxide after trying to trap every last molecule of warmth. Survivors understand this balance instinctively. Warmth without airflow is lethal. Food becomes part of the heating system. Hot meals do more than comfort. Digestion produces heat for hours. Soup kitchen chili is more valuable than coffee. High-fat foods like peanut butter, cheese, and pastries become winter staples. Calories turn into internal fuel. One outreach worker put it simply: eating is heating. Alcohol does the opposite. It creates a false sensation of warmth while forcing blood to the skin's surface, accelerating heat loss from the core. A significant portion of hypothermia deaths involve alcohol. People feel relaxed, then drift into unconsciousness and never wake up. Veterans of the street avoid drinking during extreme cold. They also avoid sleeping for long stretches. Instead, they nap in cycles. Every hour or two, people wake up to move their fingers, stamp their feet, knock snow off tarps, and check on neighbors. Circulation resets. Ice buildup gets cleared. Tents are resecured. Sleep becomes a series of short intervals between maintenance checks. Feet receive special attention. Wet socks can lead to trench foot in under 48 hours. Wool is prized. Spare socks are guarded. Plastic bags become emergency liners. People massage their toes before sleeping to keep blood flowing. Hand warmers circulate like currency during storms. Church groups that distribute them aren't offering comfort. They're preventing amputations. But subway entrances bring risks along with warmth. Police patrol them heavily. Transit authorities don't allow sleeping near stairwells. People are moved along, sometimes repeatedly through the night. Outreach teams encourage shelter placement. Some shelters are full before sunset. Others require sobriety. Many separate couples or don't allow pets. Some feel unsafe. So people weigh options constantly. Warmth versus stability. Shelter versus autonomy. Safety versus control. It's never a simple choice. And yet, even with all these strategies, subway heat is unpredictable. Trains slow overnight. Stations close entrances. Steam vents shut off. What feels warm at midnight can go cold by 3 a.m. That's why people always keep backup locations in mind. Parking garages, ATM vestibules, building exhaust vents, loading docks. Survival in extreme cold isn't about finding one warm place. It's about having 5 and knowing when to move. As the night deepens, New York City changes character. Traffic thins, office lights go dark, temperatures drop another few degrees. Subway platforms empty out between trains, and the warm drafts that rise from stairwells weaken. What felt manageable at 10 p.m. becomes dangerous by 2 a.m. People living near subway entrances learn to feel this shift in their bones. When the heat fades, they adapt. Some move closer to the stairwell itself, positioning their bedding just far enough away to avoid foot traffic, but close enough to catch residual warmth. Others abandon the spot entirely and migrate to secondary heat sources: steam vents along sidewalks, exhaust from underground parking garages, or building basements that leak warm air through cracked foundations. This movement happens quietly. You'll see sleeping bags rolled up in silence, shopping carts pushed slowly down empty streets, headlamps switched off to avoid attention. Survival becomes a choreography of small, practiced motions. Most people assume that finding warmth is about locating heat, but staying alive is about conserving it. Inside their shelters, people wear multiple thin layers rather than one thick coat. Air trapped between layers acts as insulation. Cotton gets avoided because it holds moisture. Synthetic fabrics and wool are preferred. Hats stay on during sleep. Scarves get pulled over noses to warm inhaled air before it reaches lungs. Hands are tucked into armpits or pressed against stomachs. The body protects its core first. Fingers and toes are sacrificed earliest. People learn to recognize the warning signs: tingling, stiffness, pale skin. That's when movement becomes mandatory. Even gentle exercises, arm circles, knee lifts, walking in place, restore circulation. These aren't workouts, they're life resets. People also use timing to their advantage. Rush hour is warmer. Thousands of commuters pour heat into underground platforms between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m., and again in the evening. Subway entrances breathe harder during these windows. Some people structure their sleep around this, resting deeper during peak warmth and staying more alert during colder overnight hours. It's a strange alignment with the rhythms of a city that mostly ignores them. Snow changes everything. Fresh snow acts as insulation, muffling sound, and blocking wind. Some campers pile it around the base of their shelters, creating low walls that stabilize interior temperatures. Snow is a terrible conductor of heat. Indigenous communities have known this for centuries, but wet snow is dangerous. It collapses tents, soaks bedding, turns sidewalks into ice. During storms, people wake repeatedly to knock snow off tarps and tent roofs before weight builds up. A few inches of heavy snow can destroy lightweight shelters. That's why many survivors slightly overtension their tents, keeping fabric tight so snow slides off instead of accumulating. Sleep comes in fragments. Trust becomes infrastructure. In clusters near subway entrances, people look out for each other. Someone always stays semi-awake during peak cold hours. They check tents, share heat packs, alert neighbors when police approach, and help re-secure shelters after gusts rip guy lines loose. When one person gets sick or too cold to move, others intervene. Community forms not from comfort, but from necessity. Sometimes people share tents. Two bodies generate significantly more heat than one. Groups rotate positions so everyone spends time in the warmer center. Couples sleep back to back to conserve warmth. Friends align their sleeping bags side by side under shared tarps. Dogs play a role too. A medium-sized dog can raise interior temperatures by several degrees. Many people experiencing homelessness keep animals not just for companionship, but for survival. The old phrase, "three-dog night," comes from cold weather reality, not folklore. Then there's the invisible infrastructure. Beneath Manhattan, miles of steam pipes heat buildings. Occasionally, they rupture, sending clouds of vapor into the air. But even intact lines leak warmth through manholes and sidewalk grates. Veterans of the street memorize which blocks produce heat and which don't. Parking garages vent warm exhaust all night. Supermarkets dump warm air through rear service doors. Hospitals release steady heat from mechanical rooms. These aren't secrets, they're maps. People track them the way sailors track tides. But using these heat sources comes with risk. Police often move people away from subway entrances and steam vents. Property managers install spikes or grates to prevent sleeping near warm walls. Transit workers are under pressure to keep entrances clear. Every winter, the same cycle repeats. People find warmth. Authorities remove them. They relocate. They return. Not because they want conflict, because cold doesn't negotiate. Emergency shelters exist, but they're complicated. Some fill before sunset. Some require long intake processes that leave people standing outside for hours. Some separate families. Many don't allow pets. For LGBTQ individuals, safety can be an issue. Others are so crowded that respiratory illnesses spread quickly, so people calculate risk constantly. Is it safer to stay near subway heat with your belongings, or to enter a shelter where you might lose them? Is it better to sleep alone near a vent, or crowded in a room with 50 strangers? There's no universal answer. Each person decides night by night. Cell phones become lifelines. People share information about open warming centers, police sweeps, food distribution, and storm forecasts. Libraries and fast food restaurants become charging hubs during daylight hours. Outreach workers who have lived experience connect more effectively than those who haven't. Knowledge travels fast in these networks. And here's what most outsiders misunderstand. People don't freeze because they don't know how to survive. They freeze because survival strategies have limits. Cardboard only insulates so much. Subway heat fluctuates. Bodies exhaust themselves. Gear wears out. Eventually, cold wins. Every year in New York City, people die from exposure. Some are found in doorways, some near subway entrances, some in tents tucked between buildings. Many deaths go uncounted or misclassified. It isn't ignorance that kills them, it's exhaustion. And yet, despite all of this, thousands survive. They wake up stiff and sore. They repack their shelters. They find coffee where they can. They dry socks on radiator vents inside public bathrooms. They start planning for the next night before the sun has fully risen. Because for them, winter isn't a season. It's a continuous emergency. And subway entrances aren't just infrastructure. They're lifelines. Morning light doesn't bring relief. It brings assessment. As commuters flood sidewalks and subway stairs fill again, people who spent the night near entrances quietly dismantle their setups. Tents collapse into backpacks. Tarps get folded into rectangles small enough to fit inside trash bags. Sleeping bags are shaken out and strapped to carts. Anything left behind risks being confiscated by sanitation crews or stolen within minutes. Every item matters. A lost glove isn't an inconvenience. It's a medical emergency waiting to happen. Wet socks become priority number one. People rotate footwear, hanging damp pairs on fence rails or over steam vents, hoping they'll dry before nightfall. Some carry plastic grocery bags specifically to create vapor barriers inside boots. One sock, plastic bag, second sock. It looks strange, but it keeps feet dry when shoes are falling apart. Foot care becomes ritual. Toenails are trimmed short to prevent pressure sores. Blisters are padded with scraps of cardboard or medical tape scavenged from clinics. Small cuts get cleaned obsessively. Infection spreads fast in winter, when circulation is poor and immune systems are stressed. Hands tell stories. Cracked knuckles, blackened fingertips, scar tissue from old frostbite. People wrap wrists with scarves and tuck hands into sleeves. Those lucky enough to have chemical hand warmers save them for nights forecast below freezing, treating them like currency. And forecasts matter. Phones buzz with weather alerts. Outreach workers circulate information about incoming storms. Veterans of the street prepare early, reinforcing tents, relocating closer to reliable heat sources, securing extra cardboard, stocking calorie-dense food, peanut butter, trail mix, cheese, anything with fat and protein. Calories equal heat. Hot food is worth more than hot drinks. Soup kitchens become strategic stops. Digestion produces warmth for hours, while coffee fades in minutes. People learn this quickly. A bowl of chili can mean the difference between shivering all night and sleeping. Alcohol is avoided by experienced survivors. It creates the illusion of warmth while pulling heat away from vital organs. People feel comfortable right up until hypothermia takes over. Outreach workers repeat this every winter. Those who've lost friends already know. Nicotine is another enemy. Smoking constricts blood vessels, accelerating frostbite. Yet smoking rates remain high because stress is constant and cigarettes offer momentary relief. It's a brutal feedback loop. When temperatures plunge into the teens, movement becomes medicine. People don't stay still for long. Every hour or two, they stand up, stretch, walk laps around blocks, climb subway stairs repeatedly. Not exercise. Circulation management. Blood needs reminders. Some people carry small resistance bands. Others do wall push-ups in alleyways. The goal is simple: keep extremities alive. Water is another challenge. Eating snow burns calories. Smart survivors melt it against their bodies first, tucked into jackets, held in armpits, stored in bottles under layers. Dehydration worsens cold tolerance. Even mild dehydration reduces circulation. Then there's frostbite. It doesn't announce itself dramatically. It starts as numbness, then stiffness, then skin turns pale or waxy. The terrifying part is you often can't feel it happening. That's why people check each other's faces, ears, noses, cheeks. Buddy systems form naturally. Someone spots white patches forming and forces their friend to warm up. Fingers are pressed together. Warm breath is blown onto exposed skin. Sometimes lives are saved in these moments. Severe frostbite leads to amputations. Thousands of people experiencing homelessness lose toes or fingers each year. Mobility drops. Balance changes. Carrying belongings becomes harder. Escaping danger becomes slower. One cold night can permanently reshape someone's future. And yet shelters aren't always the solution. Capacity fills early. Sobriety rules exclude people struggling with addiction. Couples are separated. Pets aren't allowed. Theft is common. Respiratory illnesses spread in crowded dormitories. For transgender individuals, safety is a serious concern. So people make calculations outsiders rarely understand. Is warmth worth losing everything you own? Is safety worth separation from your partner? Is indoor air healthier than outdoor cold? These are impossible trade-offs, and they happen every single night. Near subway entrances, communities form organically. People share information about warming centers and sympathetic building managers. They warn each other before police sweeps. They rotate watch duties at night. They pool cardboard and tarps. They help repair tents torn by wind. Veterans often organize camps with military efficiency. Fire watch shifts, supply roles, informal leadership structures. Old habits don't disappear. They adapt. Grief strengthens bonds. When someone dies from exposure, camps change overnight. People check on each other more. They share resources they'd normally guard. Territorial lines soften. For a while, survival becomes collective. Information becomes currency. Which churches serve hot meals on Tuesdays? Which hospital waiting rooms tolerate overnight visitors? Which subway entrances produce steady heat? Which cops enforce rules strictly? Phones make this faster. Group texts circulate alerts. Libraries become charging stations. Outreach teams distribute emergency blankets and hand warmers. People guard their phones like treasure because connectivity equals survival. And there are quiet allies. The janitor who leaves a lobby unlocked for 15 minutes. The diner worker who refills coffee without asking questions. The security guard who gives advance warning. They rarely get recognition, but every winter, they save lives. What surprises many researchers is this: outreach workers who were once homeless themselves connect far more effectively. Lived experience builds trust in ways training never can. Respect travels farther than authority. So what actually helps? Not piles of old coats. Shelters already have coats. They need wool socks, sleeping bags rated below 0, hand warmers, plastic bags, high-calorie snacks, feminine hygiene products, foot care supplies, and cash. People know what they need. They buy medication, bus passes, gloves, food. A small amount of money can solve immediate problems donations can't. But perhaps the most overlooked intervention is eye contact, conversation without pity, acknowledging someone's existence. Outreach workers consistently say this matters almost as much as physical supplies. Being seen changes how people carry themselves. It restores fragments of dignity that cold strips away. And beneath all these survival strategies lies an uncomfortable truth. Permanent housing with support services costs cities less than emergency room visits, police responses, jail bookings, and shelter cycling. The system spends more managing homelessness than ending it. Every tarp shelter, every subway entrance camp, every frostbite amputation exists because the obvious solution hasn't been fully implemented. People don't survive winter because society planned for it. They survive because they improvise. They learn physics from sidewalks. They learn thermodynamics from steam vents. They learn medicine from each other. And they teach themselves how to stay alive in a city that was never designed for them. Subways. Entrances aren't just doorways to transportation. They're heat leaks in a massive machine. And for thousands of people each winter, they are the thin line between waking up and not waking up. When true winter storms hit New York City, everything changes overnight. Sidewalks disappear under slush. Wind tunnels form between skyscrapers. Snow piles against curbs and stairwells. Subway entrances that normally offer gentle warmth suddenly become battlegrounds between drifting snow and rising steam. For people sleeping nearby, storms don't just mean cold. They mean instability. Heavy snowfall blocks heat vents. Ice seals stairwell cracks. Wind redirects warm air away from tents. Places that were survivable yesterday become unusable within hours. Experienced survivors prepare before storms arrive. They reinforce shelters with extra guy lines. They lower tent profiles to reduce wind drag. They double cardboard layers underneath sleeping areas. They reposition entrances away from the direction of the wind. Weather apps become critical tools. People track barometric pressure drops, snowfall predictions, and overnight lows. Outreach workers circulate warnings. Camps quietly reorganize as storms approach, shifting closer to subway stairwells, garage vents, or buildings known to leak heat. People also change sleep strategies. During storm nights, many stay semi-awake in rotating shifts, checking for collapsing tents or water intrusion. Snow accumulation gets cleared repeatedly throughout the night. Even small amounts of weight can buckle lightweight shelters. Ice is worse than snow. Freezing rain creates invisible hazards. Tent fabric stiffens. Zippers freeze. Fingers lose dexterity. Simple tasks take 3 times longer. People wrap tools in cloth to prevent skin contact with frozen metal. Movement becomes harder. Walking on icy sidewalks while carrying belongings increases fall risk dramatically. A broken ankle during winter can be catastrophic. Emergency rooms fill with cold-related injuries that aren't hypothermia, fractures, sprains, concussions. Mobility equals survival. Those who can't move easily are at higher risk. Subway entrances offer partial refuge, but storms bring enforcement pressure. Transit authorities prioritize clearing stairways. Sanitation crews remove snowbanks. Police push people away from high-traffic areas. During blizzards, people are told to relocate repeatedly, even as temperatures plunge. Relocation in storms is brutal. Everything gets wet. Dry cardboard becomes impossible to find. Wind strips insulation away. People arrive at new spots, already chilled. This is when survival margins shrink dangerously. Steam infrastructure plays an outsized role during these periods. New York operates one of the largest district steam systems in the world. Beneath Manhattan, superheated steam travels through miles of pipes to warm office buildings, hospitals, and residential towers. That heat doesn't stay contained. Manholes release vapor. Sidewalk grates exhale warmth. Building exhaust vents pulse hot air into alleyways. Street survivors learn to read these signs. They look for rising mist on cold mornings. They feel pavement temperatures with gloved hands. They notice which blocks melt snow faster. These microclimates become overnight destinations. But steam vents come with hazards. Carbon monoxide exposure is possible near enclosed exhaust points. Condensation creates slippery surfaces. Heavy steam clouds reduce visibility, increasing accident risk. Outreach workers caution people to avoid fully enclosed spaces near vents. Still, warmth outweighs danger when temperatures crash. During major storms, subway stations themselves become informal warming hubs. People ride trains end to end to stay warm. Others linger on platforms until asked to move. Conductors recognize familiar faces. Some quietly allow people to remain on board longer than rules permit. Small acts of discretion ripple outward. Hospitals also become safe spaces. Emergency waiting rooms offer heat and bathrooms. Some people exaggerate minor symptoms just to sit indoors overnight. Medical staff understand what's happening, but must follow protocol. Banks once served this role too. Cash machine vestibules were popular winter shelters until time locks and security upgrades eliminated access. Every closed option pushes people further toward risky alternatives. Storms expose another problem: noise. High winds amplify sound between buildings. Tents flap violently. Metal grates vibrate. Sleep becomes nearly impossible. Exhaustion compounds cold stress. People wrap shelters in extra fabric to dampen noise. They stuff gaps with clothing. Anything to reduce sensory overload. Psychologically, storms are breaking points. Isolation intensifies. Fear spikes. People relive past trauma. Outreach teams report increased mental health crises during extended cold snaps. Yet storms also bring solidarity. Volunteers distribute supplies. Strangers share umbrellas. Local businesses leave doors open longer. Neighbors bring soup. For brief moments, invisible populations become visible, but attention fades when snow melts. Survival resumes quietly. People rebuild camps. They dry belongings. They reassess heat maps. They prepare for the next system rolling in from the Atlantic. Because winter in New York isn't one event, it's a sequence. Storm after storm, night after night. And through it all, people continue adapting. They modify tent designs. They experiment with insulation. They teach newcomers what works. They refine survival strategies that never appear in official manuals. They become meteorologists, engineers, medics, and logistics planners, all while carrying everything they own. And subway entrances remain central to this ecosystem, not because they're ideal, but because they're available. They offer predictable heat patterns. They connect to transportation. They provide partial shelter from wind. They are points where underground warmth meets surface reality. They are accidental lifelines in a city that leaks heat but withholds housing. And until that changes, people will keep gathering near them when storms roll in, quietly doing the math between exposure and enforcement, warmth and risk, staying put and moving on. That calculation repeats endlessly, and it defines winter survival in New York City. By midwinter, everyone near the subway entrances can tell time by temperature alone. There's a particular cold that settles in around 4 a.m. It feels different than earlier hours, sharper, heavier. It's when even insulated tents struggle to hold warmth, and when the body's natural temperature cycle hits its lowest point. Medical data shows this window is when hypothermia deaths spike. People on the street don't need charts to know it. They feel it. This is when movement becomes mandatory. Some stand and walk loops around the block. Others climb subway stairs repeatedly, letting leg muscles generate heat. A few pace inside small tent footprints, careful not to disturb neighbors. Any motion is better than none. Those who stay still too long risk slipping into dangerous lethargy. Hypothermia doesn't arrive dramatically. It whispers. First comes confusion, then fatigue. People start making poor decisions, skipping layers, forgetting gloves. lying back down too soon. Experienced survivors recognize these signs in others and intervene. They shake shoulders. They insist on movement. They share food. Sometimes arguments break out. No one likes being told what to do at 4 a.m. in freezing weather, but arguments are preferable to funerals. Near subway entrances, wind becomes an enemy as serious as temperature. Cold air funnels through stairwells, accelerating heat loss. People orient tents to minimize exposure, positioning entrances away from prevailing winds. Shopping carts, plywood scraps, and even stacked trash bags become makeshift windbreaks. Engineering happens with whatever materials exist. People stack cardboard not just under themselves, but around their sleeping areas, creating partial enclosures that trap air. Emergency blankets are hung inside tents with clothespins, reflecting body heat inward. Plastic sheeting forms vapor barriers beneath bedding. Every layer has a job. Ground insulation matters more than top insulation. Cold concrete pulls heat away up to 25 times faster than air. 2 layers of cardboard underneath can outperform multiple blankets on top. People who learn this early fare better. Wetness is the silent killer. Condensation from breath collects inside shelters overnight. Without vapor barriers, sleeping bags turn damp by morning. Damp fabric conducts heat away from the body. Survivors air out bedding whenever sunlight appears, even briefly. Sun becomes currency. On clear days, people lay sleeping bags across railings and fences to dry. They rotate shoes in patches of light. They angle tents to capture warmth in the afternoon. Even 10 minutes of solar gain matters. But winter storms reset everything. Heavy snow collapses shelters. Freezing raincoats, sidewalks in ice. Windstorms tear tarps loose. After every major storm, camps partially disintegrate. People rebuild from scraps. Some relocate entirely. Subway entrances become crowded as more people seek residual heat. Territorial tensions rise. Space near warmth is limited. Disputes happen over prime spots. Stairwell corners, steam grates, garage vents. Most conflicts resolve verbally. Occasionally, they escalate. But everyone understands that cooperation usually beats confrontation when temperatures drop. Sharing resources increases survival odds. People trade cardboard for food, hand warmers for batteries, plastic bags for socks. Informal economies form based entirely on immediate needs. Dogs continue to play unexpected roles. They alert owners to approaching strangers. They share warmth. They provide emotional stability in an environment that erodes it daily. Many shelters don't allow pets, forcing people to choose between warmth and companionship. Many choose their animals. Trauma shapes behavior in winter. Some people refuse shared sleeping arrangements regardless of cold. Past assaults make proximity unbearable. They'll isolate themselves even when temperatures plunge. Outreach workers respect this, offering supplies without pressure. Not all survival is physical. Mental endurance matters. Depression deepens during winter. Darkness lasts longer. Social isolation intensifies. The constant stress of survival erodes motivation. People describe a kind of emotional hypothermia, numbness that spreads quietly. Small kindnesses interrupt it. A hot coffee, a clean pair of socks, someone remembering your name. These moments matter more than statistics capture. Technology has changed winter survival. Text alerts warn of police sweeps and open warming centers. Social media groups share real-time information. Maps of heat sources circulate privately. People coordinate movement in ways impossible a decade ago. Libraries become command centers. Charging outlets are guarded carefully. Phones are protected from rain with plastic bags. Power banks are traded and borrowed. Information equals warmth. But despite all adaptations, some nights are simply too cold. Wind chills plunge. Shelters overflow. Heat sources fail. People stack every layer they own and hope. These are the nights when emergency rooms see spikes in exposure cases, when outreach vans drive non-stop, when volunteer groups distribute supplies until they run out. And still, some people don't make it. Their deaths rarely make headlines. They appear briefly in local reports. Another exposure fatality. Another winter casualty. Their names are known mostly to those who shared sidewalks with them. What's striking is how much knowledge exists outside formal systems. People experiencing homelessness understand thermodynamics, moisture, control, calorie management, and circulation because they must. They run nightly experiments on their own bodies. They refine techniques through brutal feedback loops. Survival schools charge thousands to teach concepts learned freely on city streets. Yet society largely ignores these experts. And here's the uncomfortable reality. All of this ingenuity exists because stable housing doesn't. Every steam vent camp, every subway entrance shelter, every cardboard platform is a workaround for a problem that already has a solution. Housing First programs consistently show better outcomes and lower costs. People stabilize when they have doors that lock and beds that stay dry. Medical expenses drop. Emergency services usage declines. Employment becomes possible. Cold weather survival shouldn't be a required skill. And yet, in New York City, it is. So when you pass a subway entrance on a freezing night and feel warm air rise around your ankles, remember that someone may be relying on that same heat to stay alive. They are not there by accident. They are not there because they lack intelligence. They are there because warmth leaks through infrastructure, and they've learned where to find it. They are engineers of necessity. And every winter, they prove that human adaptability is extraordinary, even when the systems around them fall short. By late winter, exhaustion becomes visible. You can see it in posture, in slower movements, in the way people hesitate before standing up. Cold wears the body down gradually but relentlessly. Muscles stay tense for months. Sleep never comes in long stretches. Nutrition is inconsistent. Immune systems weaken. People don't just fight the cold, they fight cumulative fatigue. Near subway entrances, some faces become familiar. You start recognizing who made it through another storm, who relocated, who disappeared. Sometimes someone simply doesn't come back. Those absences echo quietly. People mark them with silence more than words. But even as winter drags on, routines persist. Morning breakdown, midday resource runs, afternoon preparation, night survival. It's a loop repeated hundreds of times. And in that loop, people become experts at reading the city. They know which stairwells produce consistent warmth and which shut down after midnight. They know which subway lines run newer trains that radiate more heat. They know which building managers tolerate tents near loading docks and which call police immediately. They memorize janitor schedules. They track sanitation routes. They observe security patrol patterns. This isn't paranoia. It's situational awareness. People learn to move before enforcement arrives, to pack quickly, to disappear into crowds when necessary. Mobility becomes protection. Lightweight shelters are preferred over heavy ones because being able to relocate fast matters more than comfort. Some people never fully unpack. Everything stays in bags, ready to move at a moment's notice. Children are rare near subway entrance camps, but when families do end up outside, entire communities mobilize. Adults rotate watch shifts more tightly. Supplies get redistributed. Extra layers appear. People take turns escorting parents to warming centers. No one wants kids to experience this. And yet, it happens. Outreach workers focus heavily on these cases, but resources are always stretched. During severe cold snaps, warming centers open late or close early. Transportation becomes inconsistent. Language barriers complicate access. People fall through gaps. Always. What's often missed in conversations about homelessness is how much labor survival requires. Staying alive is a full-time job. Every decision consumes energy. Where to sleep, what to eat, how to stay dry, which risks to accept. There is no autopilot. That constant decision-making drains mental reserves. Psychologists call it cognitive load. On the streets, it's just called another day. And yet, creativity flourishes. In unlikely ways. People repurpose umbrella frames into tent supports. They weave rope from plastic bags. They turn broken pallets into raised platforms. They build windbreaks from discarded campaign signs. They learn knot systems from YouTube. They trade skills, sewing for batteries, tent repair for food. Knowledge becomes social currency. The city becomes a scavenger hunt. But for every clever solution, there's a reminder of fragility. A gust of wind can undo hours of setup. A sanitation sweep can erase weeks of stability. A single illness can spiral into hospitalization. Everything exists on thin margins. Some people eventually accept shelter placements. Others move to different boroughs. Some find temporary housing through outreach programs. Some leave the city entirely. And some remain, winter after winter, refining techniques, teaching newcomers, quietly passing on survival knowledge. They explain how to layer, where to find cardboard, how to use subway heat safely, why alcohol is dangerous, how to recognize frostbite. These lessons aren't written down. They're transmitted person to person, like oral history. And here's the part that's hardest to reconcile. None of this should be necessary. The techniques are impressive. The resilience is remarkable. But admiration misses the point. This isn't a story about toughness. It's a story about systems. New York City has immense resources, heated buildings, vacant apartments, infrastructure capable of supporting millions. Yet every winter, people sleep beside subway entrances to capture leaking warmth. That contrast says everything. People don't survive extreme cold because society planned it. They survive despite society's gaps. They survive because of each other, because of dogs curled against sleeping bags, because of strangers who share cardboard, because of quiet workers who bend rules, because of outreach teams who refuse to give up, because of communities that form in shadows, and because humans, when pushed to the edge, become astonishingly adaptive. So the next time you walk past a subway entrance on a freezing night and feel warm air rising around your feet, pause for a moment. That warmth is someone's shelter. That draft is someone's lifeline. Behind every tent near a stairwell is a complex system of strategies, compromises, and courage that rarely gets acknowledged. People experiencing homelessness aren't invisible. They're navigating one of the harshest urban environments imaginable with ingenuity most of us will never need to develop. Their survival isn't accidental. It's engineered, night after night, under conditions that would overwhelm most housed people in days. And until permanent solutions replace temporary workarounds, subway entrances will continue serving as emergency heaters in a city that has yet to fully solve a problem it already knows how to fix.